Last night was set up by many to be Zach Wilson's last chance to save his starting spot and potentially the last game he would ever play in a Jets uniform. Fans, media, and others all across the league ridiculed, criticized, and laughed at Zach all week. And what did Zach do? He delivered the best game of his professional career against the defending champs, with the whole world watching. Despite falling into an early 17-0 hole, Wilson went 28 of 39 for 245 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions, and had the Jets with a chance to make things interesting in the fourth quarter. He ended up fumbling the snap, and the Chiefs were able to run out the remaining 5 or 6 minutes of the game. But what a performance by Zach Wilson. There are a few things that stood out to me from this game. First is that Zach looked extremely confident out there, slinging the ball on time and on target to everyone. It seemed like they really opened up the playbook for him and just let him go to town. The 2 touchdown drives he had were very impressive, especially the one to start the second half, where he was a perfect 5 of 5 and led the Jets 75 yards down the field with some beautiful throws, and had the crowd that was booing him last week cheering at the top of their lungs. Next, Zach showed accountability for his mistake, and his teammates were there to build him up. There was a moment where the camera showed Zach saying, "I lost the game. It was all my fault, bro." And then there was also a moment where Alan Lazard and Randall Cobb were shown comforting him on the sideline. And Zach made it a point to completely own up to the fumble in the press conference as well. So I love the accountability, but what I love more is that his teammates rallied around him. There were reports of people in the locker room blaming Zach Wilson for the loss last week, and the coaches and Aaron Rodgers delivered a message to the team that they needed to stop pointing fingers and start having each other's backs. And I think it's been very refreshing to see everyone coming to Zach's support over the last 12 hours. And it's not just Jets fans, it's almost everyone. He really made some people eat their words last night. Patrick Mahomes said he thought Zach played his tail off and made some really impressive throws against the Chiefs defense. He also said that he had watched him since his BYU days, and so he was just proud of him for showing out the way he did. Chris Jones also praised Zach for the way he played, saying that Wilson is a special player and that when he gets time, he can dot you up. And Jones didn't take the bait from Rodney Harrison in the post-game interview and gave Wilson his flowers. Even LeBron James gave his respect to Zach, saying on Instagram that one play doesn't determine a game and that you win as a team and lose as a team. So it's pretty amazing how fast the narrative shifted from Zach Wilson sucks and should never play another snap in the NFL to Zach Wilson outplayed Patrick Mahomes in primetime. And what I think is interesting is how volatile people are. Like, when you look at Zach's body of work this season, he's really only had one bad game so far. The stats may not tell you that, but Zach has played fine in 3 out of the 4 games this season. And that's one of the reasons why I said some of the things I did earlier this week, because it just kind of felt like people gave up on him after one bad game. And I know he's had a rough 2 years before this year, but people could not disassociate what happened the last 2 years with who Zach is this season. Against the Bills, he was not expecting to play and suddenly had to come into the game after just 4 snaps by Aaron Rodgers and somehow play a football game in an incredibly charged atmosphere with thousands of Jets fans who just watched their Hall of Fame quarterback get carted off the field. And somehow, someway, he was just good enough to get the job done. Against Dallas, he did everything he could behind a struggling offensive line. They gave him no time to do anything and still managed to play well enough to keep the Jets in the game until the second half when things eventually unraveled. He struggled against the Patriots. That was not a good game. With better play from Zach, the Jets would have won that game comfortably. However, against the Chiefs, he went head-to-head with the best quarterback in the league and played the best game of his pro career. When you take a step back and look at his whole body of work this season, there is reason to have hope. In 3 of the 4 games this season, Zach has looked like a much improved player. His pocket presence, his accuracy, his confidence, everything looks better this year. So I just think it's funny that fans turned on him so quickly and then did a 180 and are now heaping praise on him after one good game. The key for Zach going forward is exactly what Hackett told him when he entered the game against the Bills in week 1. Never get too high, never get too low. Just play your game, try your best to not let mistakes or success get to you. And the good news is the Jets play the Broncos next week, who just gave up 70 points to the Dolphins last week and allowed Justin Fields to throw for 300 yards and 4 touchdowns against them this week. So it's a perfect opportunity for Zach to have another big game and stay on the right track. Stuff happens, mistakes happen, but when you play the way he did last night, there's a lot to be encouraged by. Zach Wilson is, was, and will be the best option for the Jets at quarterback until Aaron Rodgers comes back.